And that little pantomime dance was for the folks that caught the first few frames before I said anything and before I realized that we were actually live, because this is Retro Reload. I'm your host, Dash V, and with me today I've got three other fantastic guests and co-stars.
I'm Firepilot.
Formerly known as the,
Red Beard.
gamer formerly known as Redbearded.
I am Lizzie Hedgehog.
She has a thing for Sonic.
Yeah.
Not immediately apparent, but it's true.
I'm Jeff Burns. I'm the host and creator of geek pop culture show Super Geeked Up, which we do every Wednesday night. And thank you so much for having me on. And I also, Chris here, did a lot of shooting and editing on my series Super Knocked Up.
Yes, your show Super Geeked Up is actually a spin-off from the other show, right?
That is originally, yes. Now it's its own thing. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And you've been running for a while with that now, right? How long?
3.5 years.
Nice. So we'll put a link down in the doodly-doo to the channel so folks can go and check it out, like, share, subscribe, etc., like you do with all of our videos because they're so awesome. So
They're amazing. They're like the top rated on YouTube, I hear.
they are. They're top rated amongst our one Canadian viewer.
We have some amazing Canadian viewers, man. Don't knock that.
So you have amazing Canadian viewers. I have one Canadian viewer. So we're working on getting more, though. Another thing that's probably only going to have one Canadian viewer, Lizzie, thank you so much. You sent me this. You have our first news topic today, right?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you go ahead and share with our folks the news article that you shared with me. Give us the Cliff Notes.
Well, basically, there's going to be a Tetris movie. I don't know how that's possible because I play Tetris. And apparently it's going to be a trilogy. There's going to be 3 of them. It's going to have U.S. and Chinese companies working together. It's going to have Western and Asian actors working in the movie too. But I'm trying to understand. You got $80 million budget, which did a little bit better than Angry Birds, from what I understand. How do
They
you
got more
turn?
money than Angry Birds.
Well, they got it. Well, I think Angry Birds was given like a $73 million budget, and Tetris Blocks being given $80 million. So, are you gonna fight Tetris with Legos with some fancy-looking block thing? I don't know. I mean, unless all the buildings fall over in the world and you got to rebuild them with Tetris blocks, I don't understand the point of the movie.
Now, before I read the actual article that you sent, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, I could see it. Like, I didn't know it was a trilogy until I read the article. And, I did see the $80 million, though, because it was right in the title. And I'm like, okay, for that much money, clearly they're not going to be dumb enough to just try to make a movie about Tetris, right? Like, there's got to be something, like, deep. Like, maybe it's like a documentary about Tetris and about how games like Tetris, shaped the industry and all this other stuff and created a whole new genre and blah, blah, blah. No, it's going to be a sci-fi movie somehow connected to Tetris, and even more fabulous, they're planning on it being a trilogy. I'm like, look, the audience doesn't even want new Terminator movies right now, and you're making a movie based on Tetris. Like, I loved Terminator, the new one, the Terminator Genesis, and I was really bummed to find out that it wouldn't be, that the follow-on 2 movies were just canceled. They're not gonna finish it because of poor attendance and reception of Genesis and things like that. So how in the world anybody thinks that they can take a game about like blocks and like turn it into I mean, Angry Birds I can at least see, right? There's each of the characters kind of have their own personalities and all that other stuff, and cartoons modeled after cutesy birds and everything. I've actually played the game Angry Birds on my Roku box, and it's pretty entertaining, and watching the little cartoon clips in between stages is pretty entertaining. So I could see them coming up with a feature-length film version of that would be pretty entertaining. Tetris, I have no idea how you do that. Like, why is this happening? Why?
I don't know, but it'd be funny if you hear the classic Tetris music playing and you see these blocks just slowly falling, and you're like, what do I do? So you try to like put them somewhere, and then they disappear or something. That's one thing I
think
can
the only
say.
thing that could possibly make a Tetris movie exciting to me would be if they were dropping Tetris blocks on top of the audience while they're trying to watch the movie.
That would scare people.
That would be a pretty epic. We'll make them like foam Tetris blocks or something, right? And make it like an amusement park ride or something like that. Like that would be fun, right? Like
Drop it on the Trump Tower.
I don't know. Jeff, what are your thoughts? You've played Tetris before, right?
I don't actually know what the fuck you're talking about. Yes, I have, of course.
Okay, I was gonna say this right here, right?
Yeah, I played back in the arcades, man, the other day, sure. Hey, can I share before this? One of our Super Geeked Up followers is watching us live.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So Chris Hadley, thank you, Chris, for watching. That's amazing of you. You're the man. He says, Tetris, seriously? Question mark. And then he also tweets in, I'm surprised they haven't made a Pac-Man movie yet.
Well, yeah,
Pixels.
I guess they kind of did. Pac-Man had an appearance in Pixels, and this is what I think maybe this is coming from, is like Pixels did okay as far as video game movies go, and I think they're looking at that and going, oh my goodness, like maybe we could make this work, because Jeremy, you followed up with, there's 2 more video game-based movies coming out that I don't think can possibly work. Share with us what those are.
All right, so now I also read Centipede and Mystical Man are also going to have movies. Not trilogies.
Wait, Centipede and what?
Mystical Man.
Missile Man?
Missile Man?
Missile Command.
Missile
Missile
Command.
Command.
As long as it's not another human centipede movie. That's all
It's
I
like
Oh.
it's like there's somebody right in an office somewhere going, hey, you know what? Give me a stack of games, and they just get the stack of games and they go, would make a horrible movie. Make a horrible movie, and they're like, okay, go get these to our scriptwriters, and they handed them the wrong pile.
Well, don't forget. What? Sorry.
Centipede could be a horror movie, though, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to be like these huge mutant centipedes. It's like Tremors, is what I'm going to tell you right now. That's what they're going to do.
Tremors is awesome, though.
Well, that I would watch.
I like the first Tremors.
Yeah, Tremors was pretty good. Kevin Bacon was in Tremors, wasn't he?
Hell yeah, he was.
Yeah, he rocked that. He rocked that movie. I was afraid to walk on the ground for months after that movie came out.
That's a fun movie.
My desert looks the same way as out there in the movie, so it's kind of scary.
I remember, like, hopping from the couch to, like, the chair to, like, you know...
So you thought they were going to come up through your living room?
I thought they were just going to, like, you saw they were bursting through houses and old shacks and vehicles, and they didn't care.
That's true.
They were just doing everything. So I thought I was a goner, especially we lived out in the country. So I'm like, oh my goodness, like it's miles before I could get to any help whatsoever.
Poor guy.
Nice.
Like,
Can I give a quick shout out to Kate and Sasha who are also watching? Thank you guys, I really appreciate it. Sasha also says, why does everybody have a funky hat except me? Well, Jeremy doesn't have a funky hat either.
A what?
She's saying like everybody has a funky hat except Jeff. What the hell is what she's
A funky hat? Well, here's why Dash V has the funky hat, because the funky hat is much more attractive than a toupee.
Hey, Jeremy's not ashamed to show it off though.
You know, Jeremy's
younger,
just more
too.
secure in his manliness than I am.
And Lizzie has the awesome Sonic hat, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I am so jealous of her. She's the hat and the hair, right?
This is not my real hair.
But the Mystical Man has been at work since 2011.
That does not surprise me. It's going to take them another 4 years to figure out how the hell to write a script for it.
So that's interesting. 3 random movies, or 3 random games. You know, good games, but
Who knows?
quality, I don't know.
Maybe I'm just hating for no reason, because we all know Battleship was such a fantastic movie, right?
You know, I never saw that.
That was my favorite movie that year. Just kidding.
But
That's Scott Pilgrim versus the World, right?
It gets better.
Don't fucking get me started, you bastard, on that.
The company is also working on a Monopoly movie. I'm not kidding. I'm reading this right now.
Oh man. Oh, but speaking of,
Speaking
don't
of board
forget,
games,
you've got Sonic movie coming, and then Nintendo's really passionate about making Nintendo, Mario movies again. So will they be live action and suck?
Well, I hope it's just like the one they made in the early '90s. That was awesome. Dude, we got wow. So just again, just quick shout out everybody. There's a lot of people from our show watching, so thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Thank you for supporting this awesome show.
Yeah, I hope folks enjoyed it. So usually
No, they're actually tweeting in that they fucking think it sucks.
Oh man, well you know what?
I'm just kidding. They're not saying.
Tweeted in with he's no longer viewing the show. He wishes we'd stop referring to him. He's sending us a cease and desist. Let's not worry about our one Canadian viewer. He's doing fantastic. He's just going through some rough stuff at this particular juncture. So, but yes, thank you to all the folks that are crossing over from the other show. For those of you who are tuning in from there, there's going to be an announcement from Mr. Jeff Burns shortly. But before we get to that, I believe we're all wrapped up for the time we have for the news, right, Jeremy?
Correct.
All right. So what we usually do after we give some gaming news is we jump into some of our pickups. And Miss Hedgehog, I believe that you have a Sega, possibly Sonic-related pickup, right?
Yes, I do. Because it is Sonic's 25th anniversary, a lot of cool-looking stuff is merchandise is coming in. I got this at Spencer's. It's a pixelated Sonic hat, and it's actually like on the back too. You know, Green Hill Zone's on the back, the classic Sonic. I'm really happy about this one. It was like, kind of expensive though. It's over $20.
Yeah, I went to Spencer's the other day to try to see if they had any of the Sonic line here in the Bay Area, and I didn't find that, but I found a Mortal Kombat shirt. So I ended up...
what Spencer's tells me is their Sonic merchandise goes quick, so they said if you see it, grab it, because you're not going to see it again.
Gotcha. So I need to just stop by like every single day and be like, you got any Sonic stuff? You got any Sonic stuff? You got any Sonic stuff?
Dang it, no! Okay, here.
Yeah, they did have a Kingdom Hearts shirt as well, and so I picked that up. I'll probably wear that one next Tuesday. Did you have any other pickups?
No. Well, I do have some games I got. I got Chip and Dale Rescue Rangers, and I got The Lion King, but they're on the way, so I haven't gotten them yet.
Nice. So you eBayed those, or?
Oh, I found them on Amazon.
Oh, nice.
With the box and everything, so I'm like, I don't want it by itself. It's got to have the box.
I've kind of turned into that too. Especially, I wasn't always that way with Genesis, but then you started showing off all your complete in box games during your pickups, and I got jealous. So, another.
Yeah, you could be proud.
Another console that I've been kind of, falling in love with in a way I hadn't before is the PlayStation Vita, and so I went to the local GameStop, and I got Tales of Hearts R for the PlayStation Vita, which is a JRPG. So, pretty interesting game. I didn't find out till after I picked it up that they did not localize it. So it's the dialogue is in English, but the actual vocals and everything are still in Japanese, which is fine. Some people prefer it that way. I also picked up Dead or Alive Plus for the PlayStation Vita, and that's all we'll say about that. My wife picked up Epic Mickey, Power of Illusion, and I almost discouraged her from getting this game because I know that the one that came out for the main consoles for the Wii was kind of reviewed poorly. It didn't do very well, but my wife quickly corrected me as the game for the 3DS is more like the original Castle of Illusion for Sega Genesis. And it's less like the motion-y, control-y, version that came out for the Wii. So she went ahead and picked this up complete, so that was kind of nice. My dear wife also reminded me that I don't own this Zelda game, or at least I didn't at the time. So Zelda: The Phantom Hourglass, we also picked up complete. They had it at a pretty good price. So, and then for my son, I was at the thrift store the other day, and for $4 I found a copy of Lego Batman 2. So for $4 complete, I was not gonna turn that down. So, Jeremy, any pickups?
Well, not so much games, but I'm doing an upgrade to my entertainment center because some new fans don't know. I have all my systems to one TV, all the RCAs, all the HDMI. So
how many systems total?
Right now, 12. So I'm about to expand on that soon. Yeah.
Dude, You have 12 systems hooked up to the same TV?
Yep. Because I got
So-
switchers and everything.
I was gonna say, like, when you flip the switch on the power brick, does all of LA like brown out for just a moment?
Yeah, I'm getting a quick temporary brown out then. But recently, because I got Xbox Live a couple days ago, my friend was like, "Good Xbox Live, good Xbox Live." So I just got the Xbox One, so I have PS4 headsets. So I'm tired of plugging one in, plugging one out. So I got a digital optical switcher. So all I do now is push the button, and it switches to my PS4 or my Xbox One, which is convenient.
Excellent. Now, Jeff, I believe you had some recent pickups, but these were of the board game variety. Is that correct? You're on mute, my friend.
Oh.
Okay, sorry, I'm off mute now. Sorry, I didn't want to disturb you guys talking. So I the past month or so, and I actually, I get to go to a lot of Comic Cons doing Super Geeked Up as part of the programming, and at Emerald City, which is the third largest con in the country in Seattle. I actually got for the first time to play Pathfinder, which is a very similar thing to Dungeons and Dragons, and so I finally got, and I haven't played. That's the first time I ever played, which people are shocked by because I'm such a big geek and I'm into all that stuff. But I've always wanted to. Anyway, so I've gotten really into it in the past month, and so I basically bought all these like books. So here's the 5th edition of Dungeons and Dragons, which is the current edition handbook, which is pretty much essential if you're going to play that. And then I got all these awesome Pathfinder books, and again, Pathfinder is very similar. That's the main book, and then I got like this Advanced Combat book, Advanced Player's Guide. Lots of books. So basically, I bought lots of books.
Oh my goodness.
Cool.
Yeah.
So
I would recommend getting those on Amazon if you want to save money, because they're pretty expensive. Or get the digital copy if you're really going to save a lot of money. But I like the physical books.
yeah, I'm with you. Whether it's books or games or movies, I like having the physical stuff there. I like the convenience of digital. I don't like the phantom-y nature of digital, where like things that I purchased can disappear. And I don't know it usually until I'm looking for it, and I'm like, where is that? Oh, it got delisted. So, I'm a big fan of the physical.
I don't know. It's just something about turning to the pages and being able to look it up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, like the artwork. I like the smell of books too.
The smell.
I like the smell of the ink, which is probably going to give me cancer. I like the feel of the pages and that kind of stuff, even though sometimes the ink runs or whatever, but I don't know if it's nostalgia or what, but I'm a big... you don't get the same feeling with a Kindle.
Yeah, there's awesome artwork in these too, man. Look at that. It's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that's amazing. You were going to say, Liz?
Oh, no, I was going to say I agree with you, because like whenever I buy my comics from Archie Comics, I want to be able to hold it. Because I'm like, ooh, then you can smell it. Like he's going to be like, ooh. This actor or this artist drew in here. This person did this. But yeah, I mean, it's more simple because when you were a kid, you always like, yay, like that, and you hold it against your heart and you loved it.
Now I have to say, the feeling is completely different when you're smelling physical copies of items you bought used off of eBay.
Oh. Who knows where that was?
Like, I would not recommend huffing the manuals that come with the games you're buying off of eBay. I think you're going to get a different experience than if you bought it new.
Someone could have scratched their butt with that before they
bought it. Well, I was thinking the same thing. Like they wiped their ass with it. Yeah.
They smell like armpits and booze, things like that. So.
Hey, can I show somebody on Twitter, Kate at Trek1000, big fan of ours? They asked if I was wearing a Doctor Who shirt. I'm actually wearing my favorite shirt. It's called A Brief History of Time Travel. And bonus points if anybody can, you don't have to do it right now, but name everything that's on there. But
yeah,
I love this shirt.
I could do all of them except for one.
Which one can you do?
Well, let's see. I'll do the ones that I can. Can I do the ones I can do?
Yeah. You got me on the main screen so people can see?
Yeah. I'll give you the floor there. There we go. So let's see. Starting
check
from
out my boobs, people.
Left to right, we've got Jeff's nipple. No, I'm just kidding. We've got H.G. Wells' Time Machine.
Yep.
We got Doctor Who.
Yep.
We got Back to the Future.
Mm-hmm.
We've got Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yep.
I don't know the next one, and then we have Hot Tub Time Machine.
You do know the one.
Terminator.
Yeah, the bonus. Come on, it's easy.
It's the easiest one. You just love that series.
It's Terminator.
It's Terminator 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, because look at him. He's like bending down and when he was naked.
Well, first I'm thinking like, what the hell does American Werewolf have to do with like time travel? Well,
Good job, Sarah.
so I guess I did know it. It was the nipples. The nipples were throwing me off. I
All right,
couldn't
now you can
focus.
take my nipples off the screen.
If we were in HD, we could have.
Right.
So, all right. In terms of what we're currently playing, do we have time to do what we're playing, or do we need to jump into the main topic,
20
Jeremy?
minutes.
Wait for more? Okay. I recently finished up the excellent.
8 minutes for yeah.
Yeah, I recently finished up the excellent Quantum Break by Remedy Entertainment, the same folks that made Alan Wake for the 360, Quantum Break for Xbox One and Windows 10. This was really good. It started out kind of slow, but by the middle of the game, I did not want to put it down, which was kind of a challenge because my only real complaint about the game is that they use checkpoints, but there's not an obvious on-screen indicator of when the checkpoint, where and when the checkpoint kicked in. So if you're in the middle of a storyline and you haven't finished the act, and the acts can take a couple hours to complete if you're trying to literally like find every secret item and look at every single thing and read every piece of dialogue. So it was frustrating to me that if I was going to play the game, I had to commit to like a several hour sit down of the game, or just live with the fact that I might lose my progress if my son powers down the console to power up the PS4 or something. So, but other than that, I mean, fantastic game. I think one of the best video game storylines dealing with time travel that I've played to date. Certainly the best fusion of live action video with video game that I've ever seen. The story is absolutely fantastic. It's a solid time travel story in its own right and a pretty decent game. So
that's next on my list, man. To get. That's awesome.
You got to get it, man. This is the reason I'm keeping my Xbox One. So I got it for Rise of the Tomb Raider. I was planning to get rid of it immediately after, but Quantum Break came out and I beat that, and then just went straight into Alan Wake, and now I'm hooked. The PlayStation 4 still has yet to get any of my attention since Christmas Day. My son's been loving it, but I've just been wrapped up in game after game on the Xbox One, which is amazing considering I skipped the entire 360 generation. So, also been working on Bravely Second End Layer, which is pretty darn good. I've noticed a lot of the reviews have been panning it. Don't really understand why. If you really enjoyed the first Bravely Default, the first game Bravely Default, then I think you'll like Bravely Second. It has a lot of what made the first game good, and a lot of the stuff that made the first game kind of annoying. They corrected in this second iteration in the series. So definitely worth checking out, especially if you're an RPG fan. It's kind of what we all wished that some of the Final Fantasy games had been for the last several years. So that's what I'm playing. Lizzie, what are you playing?
Me? Well, I took a break from my 3DS game, so I went back to play Sonic Boom, or Sonic Dash 2, whatever you want to call it. I love this game. This is more of an endless runner game.
Okay.
And you can choose your characters, but this is the Sonic Boom version, so for anyone who hates Sonic Boom, sorry.
But
yeah.
Glide?
No! Stupid people couldn't figure that out?
I don't, yeah. That's shocking to me, because that's the first thing I'd want to do is fire up the game, be Knuckles, and then just start gliding around. I'd be disappointed out of the gate, I guess.
Well, everybody is a runs. I mean, it's an endless runner game. I mean, you play these characters, they all have their own little special power, depending on the character. And you just collect rings, I mean, it's hard to explain, but I mean, the graphics are gorgeous. Hardlight Studios makes these games, and I mean, it's beautiful. They just added a new level, a new zone called Mountain. Well, I'm gonna call it Mountain Zone, but the graphics are gorgeous. So I really like it, and the characters do talk briefly for a moment, so I do enjoy that. You get to see Eggman pop in there, so it's awesome.
Nice. Jeremy, any games that you're currently playing list?
Still playing New Leaf, but I'm starting to lose interest because I already got Perfect Town, and still playing Sunset Overdrive, which is actually a pretty fun game once you get used to grinding.
You have jumped into Sunset Overdrive, huh?
Yeah, and it's interesting. It's different. At first, you're like, I hate this grinding. I hate this jumping. But once you get used to it, it's fun.
Yeah, that game that's another game that I really enjoyed. You know, the Xbox One exclusives, I have to say, like Microsoft did a good job selecting exclusives. They really got some solid games as exclusives. I know that there's a lot of exclusives on the PlayStation 4 as well, but honestly, a lot of them weren't really games that really tickled me. So I was shocked just how many games on the Xbox One actually resonated with me. And like I said, I'm constantly surprised with how much attention the Xbox One is getting from me, while the PlayStation 4 just keeps reminding me, hey, I'm here. I can do more than play Little Big Planet, honest. So I'll get to it eventually. Jeff, what about you? Either board games or games?
Yeah, so because I've been doing so much in the more board game realm and tabletop realm, I have not played video games in a while. The most recent video games I played was Rise of the Tomb Raider. I know, man. It is weird. Rise of the Tomb Raider and Star Wars Battlefront were probably the two latest video games I was playing. And so I mean, yeah, a lot of D&D, a lot of Pathfinder.
What were your thoughts on Battlefront? A lot of people kind of panned it. I thought it was pretty good. I'm a fan of the old original Doom and Unreal Tournament style games. So I was kind of happy to see a game that returned back to like the simple shooter roots. But what were your thoughts?
Yeah, those games, it's not my old favorite genre, and I said I was, it's funny. I had a reservation pre-order, I canceled it, and then I wound up getting it anyway afterwards. But then I didn't play very long, and I got bored, and I knew that was going to happen, but I couldn't. The main reason I got it, I think, and I will say this, the fucking TIE Fighter X-Wing battles were awesome. Like, that's the first time I've actually kind of felt like I was what it would be like to be in an X-Wing, right?
Yeah.
And that was sick. Like, and it was actually also the thing I wasn't getting killed a million times at. I was actually decent at it. The other games, I was just like, okay, yeah, people have played this a million hours, and they're just mowing me down every fucking 2 seconds, and I don't have a million hours to put in this game. I mean, it's fun. I enjoyed it. Again, this is my problem with a lot of games. I'm just like, if there's not a great story there, and if there's not like characters and story that I can follow, I'm just like, okay, I'm done after a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely. I will say this about Quantum Break. Quantum Break, like it's almost like the polar opposite from like the experience you'd get with Battlefront. Like Battlefront is like adrenaline action the second that you step in, but fully multiplayer and not any story there whatsoever. Just here's your objective, do it. Quantum Break is like the reverse. Like as you get further into the game, like the action definitely heats up and becomes pretty frantic toward the end there. But the initial game it's kind of a bit slow, very very heavy world building and story, building and that kind of stuff. But it pays off in the end because the story is very involved. The characters are very very rich in their presentation and that kind of thing. So if you're looking for a more story heavy experience where it's almost like reading a book as you're playing a game, I think you're really going to like Quantum Break.
Yeah, that's why I want to play that, and that's why BioWare games are my favorite.
Excellent. Lizzie, did we go over your plays?
Yeah, I was playing Sonic Dash 2.
Sonic Dash 2. That's right, with the cell phone. So
Yeah.
Jeremy, I think you covered yours, so I think we're done with that topic now.
Jeremy's getting naked. That's why his camera's off.
So there's a reason why we've been kind of fusing in, board games and video game talk throughout. One of the things that I find really interesting is that there's a lot of games that I really enjoy, but they can take like a long time to set up, and there's all this logistics, and you can have missing pieces, etc. Like, I love this game.
Global domination. And you set up, and I got pissed and quit.
I love this game, but the setup is such a pain. And if you don't finish the game, right, then what are you gonna do? Like, God forbid you have cats or something, right? Like, it's not like you can leave the board out, right? You'll end up half your armies get eaten by a giant cat, right? Like, that doesn't happen in the game, but it happens in real life. So, but when you have that in like a video game form, what's interesting is my wife and I can play the board game of Risk and it takes multiple nights to finish one game. We'll play it on like I'm holding up the PlayStation 2 copy because it's the only physical copy of a Risk game that I have. I think the best rendition of Risk for a video game console is actually it's been, I think, delisted. Unfortunately, it's Risk Factions that originally came out for the PlayStation 3 and the Xbox 360. They had little different characters. So they had like army characters, robot characters, cat characters, and it was Risk, but there was all these extra custom maps and different objectives, and they put volcanoes and things in there so earthquakes could happen, and all this stuff that made it. It was still a strategy game, but you couldn't just use the same old strategies, over and over. The maps made you change it up. Some of the perils and pitfalls of the different maps. Sometimes there were games where I was dead set to win, and then a volcano wipes out like all my troops, and I just get like destroyed in the next turn out of nowhere. So Risk Factions was a ton of fun, and with the digital versions of these games, where they're handling the math, they're handling the card counting, they're handling making sure the rules are being followed appropriately. My wife and I were finding that we could actually go through like 2 or 3 games of Risk a night, which was a lot more fun across a couple maps. So.
Yeah, I like some of the digital translations of those games better actually than the physical ones sometimes.
Yeah, what are some of the ones that you like the digital better than the physical?
By the way, on Twitter, Necrodia says you should graduate to Axis and Allies instead of Risk.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. You know what a game I just started fairly recently, and it started as a board card game, but it's also a digital version now. It's Sentinels of the Multiverse.
Okay.
So you play basically. It's usually like up to 4 people, and the physical version, each person picks a hero. There's all these different heroes you can pick, and you're battling a villain, and you're playing different cards and powers, right, and trying to defeat the villain. But it's cool on the digital version. Number one, if I want to, I can just play it alone, right, or I can go online and play with others. But it's just cool, right, because it's doing all the cards for you, and it's doing all the math, and I don't have to keep track of all this shit. And it just, I don't know, it's quicker, I think, and it's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think, Liz? Are there any games, like board games, that you like the digital version better?
Well, when I was a lot younger, I liked the Monopoly game that was for the NES, only because it went quicker, and it was actually kind of fun to watch whatever character you were playing, just like roll around on the screen. Those were the games I liked. Was always the digital version. When you play the board version, you're more likely to get into a fight, especially when you play with your older sister.
And whoever is the banker always somehow ends up like loaded.
Yes, what made me mad was my sister had this thing. She had to have Boardwalk and Park Place. If I ever won it and landed on it, she said, "You can't have it," and then a fight breaks out. So,
So how did you play? Because there were these rules that me and my friends played with that we didn't find out until later when I actually like read the instructions. That apparently these were house rules and these were custom rules and not the actual rules. So first of all, has everyone here played Monopoly?
Yes.
All right, great, awesome. So how many of you guys, give a thumbs up, played the Monopoly where if you land on free parking, you get the money in the middle of the board?
I was always told you get $200 exactly.
I think I've played that way.
That's how.
You've played that way, Jeremy?
Yeah.
Yeah, so apparently that's not the actual rule. Free parking is just a place that you land on, and the only benefit is that you don't have to pay anybody rent for anything. It's literally just a free spot on the board, which I think is much less exciting and also makes no sense because what we would do is we'd always put money in the middle. So like if you paid taxes, you paid the taxes in the middle. If you paid like something from like chance, you paid it into the middle. And so what would happen is you'd start out with, we'd put $50 in the middle of the board, and then over time, all this other money accumulates. I think I know why now, actually reading the instructions and thinking about it, why that makes more sense, because every game that we ever played that way, the bank always ran out of money before the game ended.
That's true.
Because nobody lands on Park Place, like, ever.
I always end up landing on it. It's because my sister was good with the dice, so she knew how to like help me roll it, and you're like, you little fucker, you did it on purpose.
So note to self, never play Monopoly with Lizzie.
No. I will hurt you.
So I actually had kind of the reverse experience though with Monopoly. Like I used to really love Monopoly, and then I played the video game version of it, and the games went so quick that I realized that the whole game of Monopoly, or at least when you're playing it in like video game form, right? It's a different dynamic, like you said, when you're playing it with people. I like the wheeling and dealing, and I like the whole like haggling and stuff, and the auction and stuff. If you don't have the money for buying the property, and the fights that would break out, and everybody trying to like one up each other or outsmart the other person. What I didn't really like about the digital version of the game is the rules being really rigid. So if there was a house rule that you had that you really liked that added enjoyment to the game, there was no way to put it in the video game version of it until the more recent ones. I think the one that just recently came out as a digital download for PS3, I think you actually can enable certain popular house rules that they became aware of. But for the most part, before that release, you couldn't do any of that kind of stuff. And then the other part was like the ability to play it like with other people randomly online. I think you lose that whole dynamic nature of the wheeling and dealing and the property trading.
I hate playing with people online. I don't play well with others.
Yeah, so for me, Monopoly didn't quite hold up. As a single-player game, it ends up you're just incrementing and decrementing a counter, which isn't really any fun, and the animations get pretty old after a while. And then, even if you do play it like online with other people, I think it's a totally different dynamic than if you're doing couch multiplayer, where they're there at your house or at your dining room table or something. And I like that human interaction a lot better.
Man, I remember Wheel of Fortune for the NES. Since I would play by myself, it would have 3 players, right? So I would just like make up names and put them to the CPU and just play with the computer. I was so pathetic.
Yeah, I would always come up with like inappropriate names, but like since the developers back then knew that kids were going to come up with inappropriate games, they would like, they'd only give you a certain number of characters, so you couldn't fully fit in the word ass muncher, right? It had to be like AZM.
Like 5 letters.
Oh no, my sister got creative. She would do like butthole, pubic, and just these words, and they go, why does it say public? She goes, that doesn't say public. It says this. My sister is my older sister. My sister taught me a lot of things. She knew how to sneak those things in just by certain words, and you're like, that's how I learned stuff.
I just learned this show that you have a sister. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have an older sister. She is late 30s, just had her 3rd baby, so she's also a bilingual teacher. So there you go.
Oh, very interesting. Very interesting. So Jeremy, before we wrap up that little mini topic there, any games that you played as digital that you preferred over the board games?
Well, Monopoly for one reason. You know how I rage on games and break controllers?
I've heard stories.
So for safety reasons, it was better if I was using digital. so the whole board isn't flipped upside down. I'm pissed.
Well, you're not missing. It's good and bad though, right? Because on the one hand, you're not missing a piece that you probably could have replaced for like $2. Instead, you're missing now a controller that got shattered into a million pieces that cost $40.
True, but I get less trouble for breaking a controller than watching all the pieces across the room.
Oh, that is true. Then they get stuck in like the register and all that other stuff, right? And like, I think when we moved out of my house in Utica and we were giving the house a good deep cleaning, I pulled up the vents to get into like the heating vents, and I found like tons and tons of like many lost Legos that my son was like, "Oh my goodness, this is amazing!" It was like Christmas Day. I like pulled all these Legos out of like thin air, literally. He thought I was the awesomest person in the world. So, but Jeff.
Yes.
I believe that you have something that's coming up like imminently that has to do with tabletop games. Am I right?
It does. Thank you. So, like I mentioned, I already do a show on Wednesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern called Super Geeked Up, which is geeky chat and crazy improv games. But this Thursday, I'm starting a new show where we're going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons live. So it's going to be Thursdays, 8 p.m. Eastern, and we got a really awesome group of people together. They're super funny, just from we did like kind of a one-shot last week to kind of just test things out, and very inappropriate, crazy talk is going to happen. I'm going to tell you that for the people on the show. But yeah, it's going to be super fun. We got an awesome DM who's been doing it for like 16 years. And
wow.
Yeah, I'm really excited. So we're going to live stream it on Twitch. So this is actually my first time using Twitch. So that's going to be twitch.tv/Super Geeked Up. So I'm just branding it under the same Super Geeked Up thing. If you're on Twitch, I would love if you could give us a follow right now, and if you could watch, because we're going to be, like we do on our other show, we're going to be, people who are commenting in the Twitch chat, we're going to be sharing those as we do it. We're going to be talking to the viewers. It's just going to be a good time, having fun, and this is going to be the first, this Thursday will be us kicking off a long campaign, like the first episode of that, basically.
So now, are you going to be doing, like, couch multiplayer, but broadcast live, or are you going to be, or different folks going to be coming in, like, webcamming from different areas? How's this work?
Yeah, so we're going to, it's going to be broadcast through Twitch, but there's going to be 4 players and 1 DM, so the 5 of us all have different Skype videos you'll see on the screen around the tabletop. So there's a site called Roll20.net. If you haven't used it, it's an amazing site to play online, not just Dungeons & Dragons, but tons of other kind of role-playing games.
Roll20.
Roll20.net. It's awesome, and it's free, too. I mean, you can do a paid version, but you don't have to. So what will happen is when people watch it, they're going to see this virtual tabletop where the DM can put all these different maps, and we have character tokens to represent all the characters that we move around. Oh, wow. So people will be seeing us on the maps and our characters moving around. The site does all the rolls for you, right? So you just click on what you're doing, and it'll say what you rolled, like what your weapon damage did, what your skills were, all this stuff. Like you just program it into your character sheet, and it does all that stuff for you. And the viewers will get to see all these rolls on the side of the screen, like what we're doing. So yeah, and they'll see us along the edges of like the tabletop, right? So in video, so they can see us, and they'll see the tabletop and what we're doing and everything that's going on. And yeah, so I think it'll be a lot of fun.
That sounds very, very interesting. Jeremy, I know that you have a couple of questions with regards to how this works, right?
Oh, Jeremy, do you have questions?
Are you going to start from like scratch? Like everybody starts at level? I'm ignorant as hell to Dungeons & Dragons.
No, good question, man. Yeah, so we're starting all our 4-player characters. We're starting at level 1.
Okay.
We did, like we said, we did do a kind of last week, I kind of get the party together one shot. So we all got a little bit of experience from that, but we're still at level 1, and so we're gonna go from there. And we got, and again, I mean, even if you haven't played D&D, like I had not played, but I was aware of all these characters just from all my RPG video game playing, right? And so I'm playing a rogue. We got a druid, we got a fighter, and we got a warlock. Those are like the player characters we're doing.
So I have to watch those because you're going to start from scratch. I never played, and I've always been slightly interested in Dungeons & Dragons.
Yeah, no, I think for sure. Like even, I mean, regardless if you played or not, yeah, I think it'd be super cool to watch and kind of see what we're doing and get the idea. And the DM is actually setting a pretty cool world. It's called Eberron. It's actually like the steampunk-esque fantasy setting.
I thought you said Enron for a second there. I was like,
no,
wow,
no, we're not. Eberron. Enron. That'd be terrible.
If you roll a 16, then all the documents will be shredded before anyone is the wiser. If you roll a 2,
right,
you'll go to jail and you'll the light of the sun again.
Nice. I like it.
So now, let me ask you this question, because I'm also somewhat Dungeons & Dragons ignorant. I mean, I've played some of the games, like some of the digital games, but those are like way different. I mean, I don't think any of the actual video game forms of Dungeons & Dragons are anything even remotely similar to like the couch multiplayer experience, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different. I played a couple of the Dungeons & Dragons games, and I played like Dungeons & Dragons Online, which you can get actually free for PC, and you don't need very high system requirements to play it. I mean, it is definitely different. I mean, like, so those games, I mean, you definitely have generally all this common core classes, like rogues and fighters and barbarians and all that stuff that you'll find in D&D. But it's very much, usually in those games, it's you playing your character. I mean, maybe you're meeting other people, but it's kind of more of a solo thing, right? And it's doing, obviously, here's the thing, those games do all those roles, right? They just do it behind the scenes. Like if you're going to attack somebody, it's doing calculations whether you hit them and damage, right, but it's just doing it on part of its programming. You don't get to see it. And obviously, so many fantasy video games are really based off, I think, of the things that D&D came up with back in the 70s, right? What's cool about the tabletop version, I would say, is that, I don't know, I guess it's more, it's funny, in some ways it's more immersive, I would say, even though you would think it wouldn't be because you're not seeing anything. Like, I mean, we're seeing a map, but it's really in your mind, right? It's really, you got to use your imagination. And it's pretty cool, though, how it's very freeing, I think, for, like, how good the Dungeon Master is, like, what they're creating, the story they're telling, right?
That's what I was going to ask, is the quality of the experience is really up to the capabilities and imagination of the DM, is it not?
In many ways, I would say, and let me, for anybody, I'm, again, very new to this, so I'm just speaking from my own experiences so far. I would say yes, but I think most people would tell you it's very much player-DM interaction, right? So I think yes. I think you absolutely need a really awesome DM to have a really cool experience, right? But also, I think then you need players who are also good at reacting to things, right, and playing along and figuring out what you're going to do on the fly, because there's going to be lots of things that happen that you have no idea of. And it's interesting
It kind
now.
of seems like an improv session on rails a bit.
It is. I was actually just going to use that word. And it's funny because there is a lot of, and it depends on how you play. Like there's two things they're called. There's active role play versus descriptive role play. Descriptive role play would be my character. Oh, I go up to the bar and I order an ale, right? Active would be you actually speak as your character, okay? And some people,
give me an ale.
Exactly. There you go. And a lot of people do accents like that, right, and stuff. And most of the games I've been in have been a lot. Usually it's a blend of both, to be honest with you. But I've actually been doing quite a bit of active. Now, as you know, Chris, I'm more of a director, even though I host, so I do not have any acting experience. That's not what comes naturally to me.
That's
but it's
why
been
I
fun
want to watch, by the way, because I want to see this. This is going to be gold.
But it's fun to do it, actually. Like, it's fun to kind of, even though it doesn't come naturally, to get into that, right, and do that role playing and be someone else and kind of just do that with other people and get to play a totally different character. So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's really fun that you get to do that, and which is way different than I think a lot of times you get to do in video games, right? And just the fact that you're playing off of other people that you know, right, and what they do affects what you do, right? Which a lot of times is not. I mean, yes, it is a lot in a lot of online games now for sure, but in a lot of video games it's still not. It's still kind of mostly you on your own.
Excellent. Well, you got me pumped. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing it. You can throw out the Earl reference again, and we'll be sure to post the link actually in the doodly-doo for anybody that wants to know exactly how it's spelled. But you want to toss it out there again?
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it's twitch.tv/supergeekedup, and that's 8 p.m. Eastern on Thursdays. And then Super Geeked Up is Wednesdays, 10 p.m., and that's supergeekedup.com. Actually, pretty much I'll put all the links on our main site there.
Excellent. Great. One of the things I wanted to mention is that there's a couple of other, I think, for video game stuff, some honorable mentions for tabletop and even hybrid games. I don't know who's played the Seen It line.
Ooh.
This is actually pretty good for couch multiplayer. They have a lot of different editions. The one that you're most frequently going to find at thrift stores is going to be the Twilight edition, because most people buy that and then they get home and they're like, "What the hell am I doing? This is Twilight," and then they take it back. So, but the Marvel edition is kind of cool in that it actually has 2 discs worth of content. What's cool is the way that it works is there's a board game part of it where you and I think up to 6 other people, you roll dice, you get to move your pieces, and then you pick, depending on where you land, you'll pick a card, and the card will tell you different things that you're going to have to do. Like you could have to watch a movie clip and then answer a question. You could be given a screenshot and have to answer some kind of question, or it could just be like a trivia question, kind of like a Trivial Pursuit type deal. And what's really cool is there's different modes to it. So it might be you watch a clip, and not only you, but anyone else that's playing can shout out the answer, and the first person to shout out the answer correctly steals the turn.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of neat. But what's cool is, they use actual clips from the game. What I thought was interesting, I was a little bit nervous when I bought this. I bought it for $4 at a yard sale, and I was a little bit nervous that there's only so much you could fit on a DVD, because literally you pop that into your regular DVD player, so you don't need a game console for that at all. But you pop it into your normal DVD player, and then you set up the board on the table with the pieces and everything. But I was worried that there'd be a lot of repeats of the clips, and after you've played it maybe like 7 or 8 times, you do get repeated clips. But what's interesting is, even though you might see the same clip, there was one time I thought for sure I had it, right? And they show this scene where Wolverine is on the subway, and Magneto is there, and then Magneto controls Wolverine and flings him to the back of the car and everything. And I'm like, I know for sure what the, because I answered a question about it before. I'm like, Hugh Jackman, and like the question actually turned out to be, I got it wrong because the question turned out to be, what color were the seats on the bus? So they do change it up, and the other thing that's really neat is that they don't just do clips from the movies. They actually were able to get the licenses to cover like games and everything. So they covered video games that were themed with Marvel characters. They also did comic books and things like that. So they'll ask like, who was the voice actor that played Spider-Man in the 1990 cartoons, right?
Oh, that was
things like that. So you don't have to be somebody that's currently in the active MCU, Marvel Cinematic Universe, or you don't have to be somebody that was super hardcore into comic books. You can be somebody that's kind of more casual into it, and you're going to be able to hold your own, in the game and get kind of far. And it's definitely, I think, a nice hybrid game where there's parts of it that are kind of digital, so your DVD player is handling the content and the clips and making sure things stay fresh. They've got a thing in there that if you play the game multiple times back to back, it'll automatically behind the scenes shuffle what the next game is going to be to make sure that you don't see the same content repeatedly. So if you do a marathon session with some folks, you're not going to get exactly the same game every time. But and they've got tons of other things. They've got general movies, seen it. They've got Star Trek, seen it, which I think I just recently got. Star Trek, the original series, seen it, which I'm super excited to play that one with my wife. So.
Wow. I would love to see a retro gaming version. I mean, not Call of Duty, none of that crap. I mean, I'm talking about like from Atari to Pac-Man, Mario, Sonic, all of that. That would be
like
awesome.
Identify the game or count the number of asteroids or something like that.
How many rings did it take for Sonic to become Super Sonic?
Right, yeah, things like that. I agree. That would be kind of neat. One other game I guess I want to give a shout out for. My brother-in-law actually turned me onto this one. Betrayal at House on the Hill.
I love that cover.
This is an awesome game. Like, part of what makes this an awesome game is the way that it works. It's a tile-based game. So you start out with a base tile, and you're in the foyer, and there's an entryway, a foyer, and then a grand staircase. And every turn, first of all, it starts out, it's not really co-op. It's more like you're all exploring this haunted house. And when you get a turn, you get to pick the character that you want to be when you start off. There's like a mad scientist, there's like an adventure guy, there's a kid, and they each have different points for like speed and sanity and strength. And so you pick the traits that you want, and things like speed determines, instead of you rolling the dice and, I get to go 6 because I rolled 6. Well, no, when you pick your character, if his speed is 2, that means every turn you get to move 2 rooms. And there's different things that you can find throughout the house. There's items you can get that might let you enhance your speed or things like that. There's encounters that you have that might decrease certain attributes. But you're basically exploring, and what the dice are used for is the dice are blank on 4 sides, and then there's 2 sides that have the number 2 on them. And then I think, there's 2 that are blank, 2 that have the number 2, and then 2 that have the number 1. And you get to roll up to 8 of them, 8 dice at a time total. And basically, what happens is hauntings can happen. Like something will happen as you go through and you explore the house. If you go out a doorway where there isn't a room, you pull from the deck a tile, and you can put that tile down anywhere that matches appropriately on the board. So every time you play, the haunted house builds itself differently based on who played and how you laid out the tiles. Mm-hmm. which is pretty cool. There's multiple floors to the house, and there's like trap doors and secret elevators and things like that. You can have rooms fall apart and you fall into the basement and things like that. So it's a very dynamic game, and that's just the first half of the game. And so all the rules are pretty much consistent. Now what happens is there's different events that occur, and then after enough of those events occur, the house becomes haunted. And the haunting is actually, the way that they do it in the game is the haunting is connected to one of the players. So what happens is the person who triggers the haunting goes off and reads this secret part of the, there's actually 2 manuals to the game, or well 3. There's the basic manual, then there's the manual for the heroes, and the manual for the haunters. And if you're one of the persons that activated the haunting, you go and you take the haunted manual and you figure out how the rest of the game progresses. And for the end half of the game, there's something like 60 combinations for 60 different storylines for what can happen. There could be like a zombie invasion. There could be like an octopus monster. There can be, a widowed bride who's trying to like find her husband and turn you into her husband if she can't find hers, and things like that. And so the storyline
sounds
changes.
like
Go ahead.
Choose Your Own Adventure. Remember
It
those?
is very much.
Oh, I love those books.
My wife and I have played this 3 times with 3 different people, and it was a completely different second half of the game every single time. And it's one of those fun couch multiplayer things, because kind of like what you were saying, Jeff, with the D&D, although not, certainly I think D&D would be more immersive and more interactive, but depending on the group of folks that you have, if they really get into their characters and things like that, you can really see some wild stuff. Like you can see somebody go like, well, if I become, when the haunting happens, I'm just going to grab my shotgun, and I'm going to go here, and I'm going to do da-da-da, and I'm just going to shoot him in the head until he dies. And then it just so happens that the way it works out, the house gets haunted, and they're the first one to die. So they die in the room, they leave their gun, they leave all the stuff there, and now they're the monster that you have to fight. Because if your character dies, you either become the monster, or in some, depending on the storyline, you become another accomplice to the monster. So people that you were playing alongside with before, now some of them become your allies and some of them become your instant enemy. And the dynamics and the strategy and the wheeling and dealing. You thought Monopoly was intense, Liz? You should play this game with your sister. It'd be a hoot.
I don't know if I want her kids to watch their aunt, beat the and crap out of their mom.
So, do we have any comments from your viewers there, Jeff? Have any of them played any of these games, or?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, a bunch of comments actually. I'm trying to scroll.
We had like over 100 notifications. I just checked.
A lot of people are talking about Dungeons and Dragons. Which is good. And thank you. Some people said they already just followed us on Twitch. Thank you guys. I really appreciate it. Necrodius wants everyone to come to Indiana to play with him, so I told him we're on our way right now.
Yeah. We're in a plane right now. The plane just happens to look like my studio.
Wow, that you have your own private jet. That's awesome.
I do. It's the Google jet. This is the when Google doesn't use their jet, they sometimes let me borrow it.
Yeah, and Chris Hadley was saying how he played Wheel of Fortune and Family Feud for Super Nintendo back when you guys were talking about that.
Oh man, you know what frustrated the hell out of me about those games is the spelling, right?
Like you spell everything right, or
it's to spell it all correct and under the time limit.
Jeopardy.
It was always super frustrating for me. It's like fun with friends. Oh, I'm sorry. The answer was fun with friends. I'm like, that's what I said.
Fun with fries?
Yeah, and it's not like nowadays where like you could get the keyboard attachment. You know what I'm talking, like PlayStation 3 and PlayStation 4. They got the little Bluetooth keyboard that you can connect in and do it. It was like no, it was like you're hitting like up, A, down, down, down. Come on, I'm on a time limit here.
They knew how to work us back in the day.
Yeah, I know.
That's creepy right there, trying to hurry that up.
So I have a tremendous amount of respect, as a short version, for anybody that was able to power through those games that required spelling under a time limit with a D-pad. That's.
Oh yeah, Wheel of Fortune. Oh.
Yeah. That's a different kind of Nintendo hard.
Yeah, but those games were a pain because then you're like, well, isn't that the word? And then you're like, you realize you spelled it wrong by one letter, and you're
Oh,
like, oh,
I
I
spelled
didn't win
wired
the
science.
Porsche.
Yeah, I spelled wired science, not weird science. So,
That was probably the worst.
all right. Well, folks, we are at time. This has been Retro Reload, and just as an FYI, no, I did not spell board games wrong. It was a play on words. Board, period, games, question mark. So, but thank you for your concern. Hopefully we'll generate enough ad revenue from this episode to where I can go back to school and learn proper spelling and grammar. In the meantime, I want to remind folks about the challenge that I issued last week. I've got a complete in-box copy of Sonic Spinball that I am willing to send somebody. I'll pay the shipping and everything. You just send me a message to not this week's episode, but last week's episode. Go to last week's episode, and I issued a challenge there. How many times have I started the show with, folks, welcome to Retro Reload, I'm your host, Dash V. The first person to get me the correct count, you get one guess per YouTube account. The first person to get me the correct account, or the correct count rather, gets the complete in-box copy of Sonic Spinball. Case, manual, and game. The second person to get it correct gets cart only. And remember, yes, you can just copy off people that have already guessed, but I'm not immediately going to announce the winner. So if you're going to copy off of somebody, make sure you copy off the winner. So, because there's nothing worse than copying off the loser.
How do they do it? They go to last week's YouTube and put in the comments. Is that how they enter?
They go to last week's YouTube. If they want to see the full rules and all that other stuff, they go to last week's episode. It's toward the end there. But I basically gave the gist of it. Really, if you just go through our backlog of episodes, count how many times I've hosted and said, folks, welcome to Reload, I'm your host, Dash V. Post the count in last week's video comments. And that's where I'll be looking for it. If you got the answer right, I will contact you. I'll message you through YouTube, and I will coordinate getting you your gaming goodness.
Awesome.
So,
That's a great prize.
All right. So, folks, it's been awesome. Jeff, thank you very much for coming on board.
Oh, thank you for having me so much. Thank you for letting me talk about the new show. And again, just one last time, twitch.tv/Super Geeked Up. Guys, if you could follow that, that's awesome. This Thursday, 8 p.m. will be our first one. Actually, and everything will be on our YouTube, by the way. All our stuff is all at youtube.com/Super Geeked Up, like all the shows I do. So, including the one that Chris worked on, Super Knocked Up. You can watch all that there. And if you can subscribe to us, that would be super cool, too.
Yeah, Super Knocked Up's pretty fun. We actually blew up an apartment.
Well, thanks to Chris's visual wizardry, we did blow up an apartment. That's true.
Yes, we managed to blow up an apartment and still get the deposit back. That is movie magic, my friends. So we'll catch you next week, and in the meantime, make sure to check out their show on Thursday. I'm sure it's going to be a hoot. Take care.
Bye.